I'd like to call this meeting of the Brighton Area School Board of Education to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Conley?
Here.
Mr. Kraus?
Here.
Mr. Stahl?
Here.
Mrs. Meinert? Here. Mr. Trombley?
Here.
Mr. Chesney?
Here.
Mr. Birchfield?
Here. Okay, we're all here. Can we get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0. Dr. Gray, Shining Stars.
Thank you. We start tonight with a shining star from Scranton Middle School, and we have Jen Evans here, who's going to tell you all about it.
Good evening. My name is Jennifer Evans, and I'm the middle school band director at Scranton Middle School. I have a lot of great things that happen in my career, but one of the absolute best moments is when you can celebrate a student's success. And I have a wonderful student here tonight that I would like to recognize. Sean Foster is a current member of our 8th grade band. He plays in our French horn section. And in October, on a Saturday or a Sunday, depending on which day he chose, along with 2,400 other students from around the state of Michigan, band students, he auditioned to be a recognized member of the All-State Middle School Honors Band Group. 2,400 students auditioned for 5 instrumental ensembles, and Sean was chosen amongst those 2,400 students to be a member of the French horn section for the Middle School All-State Honors Band. He was able to be in Grand Rapids the weekend of January 23rd for the annual Michigan Music Conference, and he represented Scranton Middle School as a member of that group. After just 2 intense days of rehearsals, the group performed 5 pieces of very difficult literature, almost of the high school level, and sounded absolutely amazing. So I just wanted to recognize Sean. What a wonderful, wonderful student.
Congratulations.
Thank you, Mrs. Evans. Great job, Sean. Our second shining star tonight, he's sitting right here in our second row, is Bruce Everett. Bruce was nominated to receive a Shining Star for recognition as a service as a bus driver for Brighton area schools. I pulled the article that was about Bruce about a week ago, and I just want to hit a couple of high points. Bruce, not that he must love this or not, but is our oldest bus driver in the county, so congratulations, Bruce. But I think some of the key phrases that were talked about in relations to Bruce when the article was out need mentioning tonight. One, it takes a special person to drive a school bus. I think we can all agree to that. It's hard to ride the school bus with him, let alone drive it. So I think these words that he's very kind, he's calm, and the kids love him, all said by his director, Betty Klahosi, would be right in line with what we've always seen from Bruce. And she also said she thinks that's what keeps him young. I don't know if that's true. Some days the kids make us older, but... And then finally, I think when she said he's good with the kids and has a great personality, we couldn't agree more. And so we'd like to take a moment tonight to have Bruce come forward and receive recognition as
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. Oh, she does.
I want to make it in my head. So.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Again, thank you, Bruce, for all your service to the district. And finally, tonight we have Peggy Moyer from Hilton Elementary, who's going to say a little bit about our shining star, Michelle Kraus.
Good evening. And I also would like to first thank Bruce as well. He drives to our building quite often, and it's very true. The kids love him, and it's the calmest bus going. So thank you. Thank you from me a lot. Hilton has been very proud to have a staff member, an educational assistant, with us for many years. Her name is Michelle Kraus. And Michelle is someone who has risen above others, and we have been talking about for a while the above and beyond that she does at our school. And most recently, she was nominated by our fourth grade teacher, Ann Michaels, to receive a Shining Star because we have currently a student in our building, a fourth grader who has leukemia, who is having a hard time keeping up with studies, with all his treatments and such. And Michelle has taken it upon herself to make sure that she is doing after-school tutoring with this child to make sure that he is up on his academics. And if this was just the first time, we would say, what a wonderful act, but it isn't. She's done this over the past few years with students. Last year, we had a family that, 2 students who were behind in their studies. She does all this tutoring on her own time, free of charge. She meets with students whenever to help them on their studies. And we just feel that's so above and beyond, and we're very proud of her. So I asked her to be here tonight, but just so that you know, that is so typical Michelle. She doesn't do it for the reward. She doesn't do it for, she goes, I'm a little embarrassed. I'd rather not come. So it's so her. She does it because it's in her heart, not because she's here to hear kind words about herself. So kudos to Michelle and thank you.
That's all we have.
Now it's time for call to the public. Call the public, you can address the Board of Education. You'll have 3 minutes. Just please state your name and your address. As we did last meeting, Mr. Chesney will be holding up a sign with 30 seconds left, a yellow sign in your 3 minutes, and then a red at the end of your 3 minutes. So we can try to keep it under control. Oh, see, you delayed it enough that it just happened naturally. Would anybody like to address the board this evening? I see no one, and we'll continue on with board reports and correspondence. LESA PAC representative.
Tonight we have Marcy Maloney here. There were some questions last time about the PAC representatives and the process, so Mrs. Maloney will be here tonight to talk a little bit about it. She's our Director of Special Education. So Marcy?
Good evening. I'm here tonight to introduce our 2 newest members to the PAC committee at LESA. The PAC committee is a group of parents who represent districts all over the county. There's 2 representatives and 1 alternate on the PAC committee who support parents in training opportunities and looking for support with the IEP system for students with disabilities. So just to reintroduce you tonight, Jamie Buckley is a parent in our district, and she is a current representative. And then we also have Jen Shemansky and Katie Boggs, who are going to just tell you a little bit about themselves.
I'm Jamie Buckley, and I've been on the PAC now for just about a year. I have 3 children with IEP. One is out at Voyager in the LESA room. She's cognitively impaired, physically impaired, and has autism. And then I have a son at Spencer in the hearing impaired room, and he is visually impaired as well. And I have a daughter at Spencer who is OHI, other health impairments. And then they are triplets who are 7.5 in 1st grade. And then I also have a 3.5-year-old who is at First Steps, doing everything typical and just a really different experience. So if you ever have a need for the PAC or any information or supports about services for your children, definitely get in touch with us.
My name is Jennifer Shemansky. I have lived in Brighton for almost 5 years, and I have a 3rd grade daughter at Hawkins and a 6-year-old daughter at Hawkins in junior kindergarten, and she has an IEP.
Hi, my name is Katie Boggs. My husband and I have been in this community all our lives. I graduated from Howell High School, sorry, but my husband graduated from Brighton High School. We have 2 sons in the Brighton schools. My son, who is in Maltby Middle School, Christopher, he's 12 in 6th grade. He actually has Tourette syndrome, so he has a 504 plan. But my youngest son is 3.5 and is in the special education room for preschool at Miller School. So with my older son, with kind of a mild disability that does affect his education, we've learned to advocate for him, and then just didn't realize that we're going to have another one come along that has needs that are even more severe, and it's just so, I've already learned from the PAC myself, and I really hope to help others as well. It's a scary situation to be in sometimes, but if you have a community around you, it can be a great thing. Thank you.
Okay, board correspondence, I have one. I was invited by Sherry Osterman to go to Hilton School's play that they did. They taught a play / musical last week. And it was amazing. I mean, it was just the cutest, most entertaining 30 minutes I spent. It was well worth my time. There's 85 kids from the school taking part in it. It was organized by PTO members Jessica Cardoni and Diane Castillo. Make sure if I'm getting everything right here. The play was started last year, and they're meeting once a week since October, whether it be in the hallways or the gym, to bring this all together for their family. And I got to guess that the auditorium had 800 or 900 people in it. I mean, it was, the lower level was completely full of the auditorium for these kids, and they just put on an unbelievable show, and they're going to be putting it on for the teachers and staff here pretty soon, right? So, just want to thank, that was a really, really nice night to spend out. So, anybody else?
So one thing that I wanted to bring up, and it seems to be, I don't know if I'd classify it as escalating, but it is a cause for somewhat concern, and that's related to the Horning and Maltby parking lot and some safety-related issues with traffic and traffic flow and parents backing up, dropping kids off in the wrong places, or kids getting in and out of cars in the wrong places. I have not personally witnessed this, so I can't speak from experience. I've heard from multiple people that this is a rising concern. And then last week we heard from a gentleman, speaking of Spencer, again, I haven't personally witnessed it, but it sounds like there's some concerns there as well. So this is certainly something that, I think we need to pay attention to and come up with some type of plan. I'm not sure if, I'm not suggesting that that's necessarily the right step, but was there an engineering study done with respects to the redesign at Maltby and Horning specifically? Yes. Okay. Again, I don't know that we're going to solve this here tonight, but I do think it's something that we've got to put a little bit more attention towards and look into further.
Okay, yeah, because I actually talked to Peg Boyer, and they're having a similar thing. Does it have to do with the snow and kind of choking down lanes? I know that was an issue over there.
No, at Spencer, the specific issue is when traffic's pulling in the morning, you have traffic coming from both ways, and you have 2 lanes that will lead out. So what our wish is that everybody would turn right. If everybody turns right, then the traffic continues to move. If people try to turn left with 2 sets of traffic coming, it blocks traffic, and it'll back it up to 96 if that's the case. People try to turn left, and so that prohibits cars from getting out, and it backs it around the circle. I've been to Spencer probably 8 times this year. I was at Hawkins this morning. I was at Scranton this morning for theirs, and I've probably been to Maltby and Horning 8 to 10 times so far this year looking at traffic flow. I don't know if there's a perfect way to do it, to be honest with you, and I don't think we have enough staff to put out there to make all the parents drive the direction we ask them to drive. So that becomes part of the challenge. The only thing I would do presently at Horning is I'd probably station 2 people on the crosswalks on both sides, just so they can stop traffic there. To do that at Hawkins, we made Mr. Yates aware of that. At Maltby, you already have, I can't remember the one guy's name, but Jeff Isley and our locker room attendant out there every day, along with custodian Chad, and they help with that process. So I don't see, other than sometimes user error, because people want to go where they want to go in a parking lot, as big of an issue in terms of it. I think what we need to do is just continue to be vigilant on the explanation of why we want to do that. And so we ask for a 5 to 7 second drop off. So when people wait 30 seconds to 3 minutes, that also causes a delay in traffic, but we're not going to yell at people for waiting 30 seconds to 3 minutes. So it does cause a backup. In terms of parking lots, I've been doing this a long time. I don't know if there's a perfect solution to it, to be quite honest with you. I think at Maltby Horning, in a matter of 30 minutes, we're bringing almost 1,400 kids through the parking lot. There's going to be a delay. People need to be patient, and they need to follow the procedures that we've put out in terms of that. It's the exact same thing at Spencer. I stood at Hawkins today, and Scranton. All the kids were in Scranton before the bell. I stood at Hawkins today, all the kids were out of their car and walking up to the front door by the bell, in terms of that parking lot. And I talked to Dan DRC at Hawkins today, who runs that most of the time with Diane Plath, and that some of the issue is the same people come late each day, 7 or 8 cars. And I don't know how to change that in terms of that process. I would say we need to continue to refine that process, and maybe continue to send out explanation letters on, this is why we want you to only turn right. We've painted, I don't know, Bill, how many arrows at the different lots to try to show people which direction to go. We've put up lots and lots of signs too, but it doesn't always work. And so we're always looking for better ways to do it. In the designs, all of the designs had the closed loop parking with the walkways to prohibit traffic crossing. That was the whole point of the actual parking lot designs, was to minimize kids walking through traffic. And again, that's why the bus loops were separated from the traffic, because then the bus kids would never cross any traffic. That's why it was done that particular way. We only have about little less than 50% of our people ride bus. And so out of 1,400 kids going in and out of Maltby Horning, 700 cars are coming in and out in a small period of time. So there's going to be some delay with that. I don't know how to solve that. We did take quite a bit of time to study those lots. But we can continue. I think the best way is just to continue to try to educate. I don't know other ways besides that. I don't think putting other exits, the gentleman that was here last time, I went the next day, explored the option of another exit. It doesn't do anything for us. It just puts another exit into the exact same traffic flow situation that we have presently. And that doesn't change anything for us. So I think the time is what it is. And all the schools that I've been to have been getting kids on time. And then release is about the same way. Most of the schools are out within 7 minutes. 7 to 8 minutes, kids are on buses and we're gone. And that's about as quick as we can do it. We only got a 20-minute window anyways. So we're willing to look at any ideas. We're not closed-minded about this. But some of the things won't work. Some of the things can't work. And some of the things are cost prohibitive and wouldn't get the bang for the buck if we did it anyway.
I think it's, to go back to clarify your question, I don't think we had a traffic study done for the parking lots. I think we merely had the civil engineering firm that designed the football field that's at the wrong elevation, some of the hiccups that are at the crosswalk that goes across to nothing at Maltby. Some of those issues, that speed bump that's supposed to be a crosswalk that people cross at, that was the engineering that was done.
Correct.
So I don't believe we had a parking consultant or an engineering company come in and actually do a traffic study, or traffic flow study.
We had civil engineers that designed the parking lot, so.
Okay, yeah, no, that's helpful explanation, and I agree that I think further communication and education to parents is important. And I'll give some more thought to this as well, and I think we can engage some parents. There's a lot of vocal folks over there, so the
Yep.
more that they can engage, I think the better as well.
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you. Tonight I've got a couple things. The other day I was,
Each individual.
I was over at the high school and test 1, 2. And it was time there should have been a Pledge of Allegiance. And we didn't have one. So I did a little checking into it and called Dr. Suri and asked her to do a little research on that. And I'm going to turn it over to her so she can tell you what she found out for me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. When Mr. Conley gave me a call, I followed up with the buildings, checked with the high school what they were doing, but also checked with Scranton, the other buildings in the district, and found that the buildings were reciting the Pledge of Allegiance as part of their morning routine at the elementaries, Maltby, and Scranton. And that's what I found out, and that's what I reported back.
So when I heard back from Dr. Suri on that, I looked into it a little bit further, and a short time ago, the state of Michigan, our governor, enacted a new law regarding the requirements for the Pledge of Allegiance in schools. And it talks about allowing the time, talks about not making everybody do it, but there's the general rules, and I passed them out tonight. It's section 1347A. And it's the 2013-14, started with the 2013-14 school year. It's required. And I found that we made a phone call, and I think we made an adjustment at the high school, and then shortly thereafter, the adjustment disappeared. So what I'd like to do, and the responsibility of this falls upon the board, the school board. It's really our job. And I obviously wasn't happy when I just stumbled into it. I would rather not, but, so I'd like our board to look at this. I passed out the legislation on it, passed by our governor and signed. And I'd like to have the school board make a decision on what they want the school system to do here for Brighton area schools, make a decision on it. My position on it is I support that all of our schools do the Pledge of Allegiance, and that, you know, anybody that doesn't want to do it obviously doesn't have to do it. And that's my position on it. Okay? And the next thing I have.
Before we go on.
Yes.
I agree with the Pledge of Allegiance as being a fundamental part of all schools and reciting that, but doesn't the bullet point 2, isn't that a counter argument to what you just said? I mean, that a pupil shall not be compelled against a pupil's objections to recite it?
Well, I go with that, but there's case law right now in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has upheld that our duty as a public school is to offer the Pledge of Allegiance. There's nobody that has to do it. But the Supreme Court says we do. Now, in a case that, again, the students have to be given that time to do it. Now, the governor of the state has also ordered that the time be given to do it. And I would support the Supreme Court decision that claims that we should have the Pledge of Allegiance in schools across this country. This big debate has gone on, and I read through it, trying to figure out what the reasoning we wouldn't have the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance was changed somewhere around in the 50s, and it changed what was in it. Prior to that, no one would have an objection to it, to be honest, the old Pledge of Allegiance. So it got changed, and it created a potential objection, and, you know, and you can see both sides of it. But at this time, the governor's ordered that it be offered in public schools in the state of Michigan. So we're not in a position to change that. We follow the orders of our governor.
Dr. Suri, what's your take on this? Other than the fact that, okay, it's done in the elementary schools, right? So what's your thought
It's
of the
done in
high
all of our
school?
buildings, K-8. Like I
Okay.
said, it's part of the morning routine, either over the announcements or it's done as part of the, you know, the calendar time, the warm-up in individual classes. I think that's how it's done at Hawkins. As I read the legislation, it's pretty clear that each day all pupils, school pupils, public pupils, school pupils in each public school shall have the opportunity to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. And then, yes, it does go on to say nobody's forced to do that. I think the bigger question for the board is, it says that the board is responsible for ensuring that that's done. It's not that the curriculum director is responsible to ensure that's done. So I would just say it's worth a discussion,
So if,
how you want to do that.
so if there was time available after the announcement or something of that nature for someone, X amount of minutes set aside for the Pledge of Allegiance, if someone wanted to say the pledge, they could, if they felt like it.
Correct. So Dr. Gray, how would we
So I think you
translate
have,
this law into our daily
you have two
practice?
options. You could mandate that we have everybody say the pledge each day, or in accordance with the law, you can mandate an opportunity to say, whether that means somebody says it over the PA or they offer the opportunity for time to say it. Those are the two options. I've talked with Gavin and Henry a great deal about this, and I know I think Henry was reading it for a while. I think the long-term intention was to offer the opportunity, but I don't know where it's at presently.
Senator Gavin, you're doing it?
Both.
What's the,
We offer the high school students the opportunity to say the pledge right after announcements. We announced it last week, Bill, we did not announce it today. We will do it periodically just to remind. And then classes will stand up, some kids, one class does it every day. We'll give the students the opportunity. That's what we are obliged to.
I can offer from my own experience. My wife's an 8th grade teacher out in Brighton. They say it every day. It is announced on the PA, and those that wish not to speak, they can stay in their seat or they can stand reverently. And it's enforced every day, and there are some that do and there are some that don't.
I would say in the majority of the districts across the state through 8th grade, they say it over the PA every day. I think if you look at high schools across the state, there's some that do and some that don't. So again, we're looking for direction on this, and then we'll enact your direction.
On that, Henry, on the point that this was enacted in 2013-14 school year, we hadn't done it until last week. So we went a full year without complying with standing up and saying we offer 2 minutes for the Pledge of Allegiance now. Now, when I was in school, I didn't hear anything about standing up and say, if you want to do the Pledge of Allegiance now, you can. If the thing goes silent and everybody just sits there, I understand it, but that wasn't the intent of this legislation, all right? And I'm not going to go with it. So I'm going to continue to ask the board to seriously look into this and look at what the rules are, and I believe that the Pledge of Allegiance is just, it's just a few years ago that I heard that we didn't have time for the national anthem in graduation. It was only 3 years ago. Dr. Gray and I and a group of board members met one day with a leadership group and the person in charge of that, and we had to have a discussion, and President Krause was with me, sitting to my right, or he's president now, at the time he was treasurer, I think, and we decided that Brighton area schools would have the national anthem in graduation. Now, we're at another juncture. We're making decisions regarding what the state has ordered us to do. Now, the graduation ceremony is by option. We don't have to do it, but we decided to, and I've been very happy. It's been very successful. We have students audition for it, and they put on, I think, just a wonderful presentation for a send-off for our seniors. And I hope in the near future that we actually can bring the color guard in and honor our students that are going into the armed services as well in a similar way. I'm going to bring that forward shortly. But anyhow, we're here tonight about this, so I would like the board to, like I said, adopt a policy that we stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance in high school and Brighton schools.
Dr. Gray, for the next meeting, can you put together a couple options for us to look at, and we'll put it on for future action, and kind of look what the language is going to be, see how it's compliant to the law as it's stated here, and then we can have our discussion and see what we take action on.
You want it for future and then for action, or do you?
For future next time, and, maybe bring a couple of proposals, check with other districts how they're handling. The high school obviously seems to be the sticking point, not the K-8.
No, I was so happy to hear about it.
In our, I can tell you in our county, because we checked, one high school doesn't do it at all. Several of the high schools have everybody stand, two of the other ones. And one of the other ones, they say it, but nobody participates. So there's a varying degree. So in one of the high schools, they say it over the PA, nobody participates throughout the building, so it's kind of lost. In another building, they don't say it at all. And in the two other buildings, they say it and people participate. So within the county, I think you have 4 different ways presently that it takes place out. So I'm guessing they had similar conversations to this and made a decision and gave a directive, and then we followed the directive.
Okay, so if we could put it on for future.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Conlon. One more, okay.
We had, I assume our other board members have gotten letters regarding the chartering the school, and asking us to charter this classical education school. Obviously, it's a tough decision for probably everybody, whether they support a charter, whether they think that Brighton area schools should be issuing a charter because we're a public school. Why would we do that? Why do we take on these obligations and different things that we don't do now, and more responsibilities that might take our eye off our primary target, which is our students. Let there be no question. The primary target is our students in Brighton area schools. That's who we're interested in taking care of it. And, but at the same time, this board is elected by the public of this community. And the education of the children is really brought to us by their parents. We're supposed to do what their parents want us to do in order to get them an education. There's nothing wrong with a good classical education. There isn't anybody in here that can put down a good classical education for a family who wants it. So we've taken the stance, I think wrongly, that, you know, we're just against this whole idea. And again, we're the voted in persons to make this decision for an entire community. So I kind of wrote up, it's the duty of the school board to allow the residents of the school district of our city and of our county to get the education that they want. Like it or not, that's what it is. And the system should be free-flowing without a bunch of hurdles and rivers and bridges that are broken in two to get to, if that's what the people want. So they want the best opportunities for their students and their children. And what is wrong with that? There's nothing wrong with it. And like I've said before regarding the charter school and the Hillsdale curriculum, it's their choice if that's what they want to do. It's not our choice. Now, we don't have to charter it. They can find somebody else to do that. But what happens if they can't? What happens if there's a lot of people that want to have this school and they don't get it chartered, and then the school gets bulldozed? Well, in other communities, including up in Howell, they bulldozed a beautiful school on Latson Road. That school had an offer on it to buy it before it was bulldozed. All right, it wasn't as much as this last offer, but they had to pay for tearing it down, et cetera, et cetera. And I understand the offer was from a school system, or a charter school possibly. Didn't make it. Walled Lake tore down, I believe, 3 schools. They wiped out 3 complete schools, fully built schools, ready to go, because they didn't fall into the hand of charters. All right? My belief. I was told they were going to be redeveloped. The property was going to be redeveloped. I don't believe anything's happened to it. So, the fear of the charter. Boy, I don't know if it's up for us to have us be afraid of the charter. It's the parents who decide they want to send their kids there. If they don't get the education they want, it was the parents' choice. But it's a great opportunity. We're dealing with the Pledge of Allegiance today in our high school. I'll bet that school does a Pledge of Allegiance. It may be a choice that that parent wants. And we may hear here in this county or in this school now that our parents want the Pledge of Allegiance. We were elected by thousands of people. Right here, the school board is. So as we go into this opportunity to support a charter, I have a couple things I want to throw at it. And again, I have some questions when it comes to that point in the vote, before we vote. I'll leave it for that. that I have to ask the superintendent and Dr. Gessinger. And, but thank you.
I may.
Sure. I couldn't agree more about the charter school and the fact that, you know, if that's the parents' will, so be it. But at the end of the day, you can only put so much lipstick on a pig, okay? And I don't care what people say about Pat Battaglia, and that if they're going to sell the school to another entity, whatever's going to happen, okay? He still has his hands in this charter school. As long as he has his hands in this charter school, I refuse to let Brighton area schools be held hostage to a charter school who comes in and tells everybody up here at the board about how bad of education their kids had in public schools. They had to pull their kids out of public schools. They can't stand public schools. But now all of a sudden, they want us to charter it. They want us to finance it. They want to use the Brighton area school name. Think about this now. Why do they want BAS connected to this school? Okay? In my opinion, it's all got to do with the revenue. Because when someone calls the ACA Academy, they're going to say ACA Academy, and they're going to say, you know, these people are going to say, well, they like it or they don't. And the next thing is going to be out of their mouth, well, we're chartered by Brighton area schools. Now, why are they going to say we're chartered by Brighton area schools? Because there's a monetary value connected to Brighton area schools. And these people are going to think, well, as long as Brighton area schools endorses this school, then everything should be fine. Well, we all know this is not the case, and we all know that this is not the case with Mr. Paglia. Now, I feel very sorry for the people like Mr. Streetman and the other people that are involved with him in regards to this business. Because honestly, if they went and did their own thing, I'd be more than happy. I don't see Chuck Stockman coming to us asking us to charter a school. There's plenty of charter schools. There's plenty of opportunities to go to school. We're offering an education that the people are asking for, that we have to do by law, and we're doing it. Now, again, I'm not against these charter schools, but I'm against Pat Battaglia and what he stands for. There's a lot of chaos going on in this world behind the screen of Christianity, okay, and religion. And look at the news. Look what's going on, okay? All in the name of religion, standing behind the religion side of things. Let me give you another example. The very first meeting that I was in with Dr. Gray.
Can we push this
Absolutely.
to the agenda item?
More than happy.
I don't want to.
I was just getting out of
Yeah, I
work.
know. That's right. When you took a deep enough breath, I thought that was the right time to jump in. I mean, we'll push into that.
Good.
Any other board reports?
Yeah, I have just one thing. I wanted to give a lot of credit to Mr. Conley and Mr. Filipowski and Mr. Roberts. I went to Brighton High School Auto Shop Open House on January 14th, and it was just absolutely a phenomenal event. There was students that were there that were just plugged in, and they had essentially puzzles on various different parts of the automobile that they had to solve in a short amount of time, and it was just exceptionally well organized. The students were plugged in and enthused, and it was very well run, and Mr. Conley and Mr. Filipowski and Mr. Roberts deserve a lot of credit for that event.
Any other board reports? Okay, now we're going to go to for action. First item is minutes of January 26th. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Support.
Okay, we have a motion and a support. We have issue with the minute.
I move to amend the minutes on section 8A, Roman numeral 8A. Voice vote, it says 5 ayes, 2 nays, and it should say 4 ayes, 2 nays.
There's only 6 of us seated at the time, not 7. Yeah. So I have an amendment to the motion. I have support for the amendment. Okay, we have an amendment and support. All in favor of approving the minutes of January 26th as amended, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 7-0. Next item up is charter authorization.
And I raise an objection to the consideration.
Okay, shall the question be considered? This is what we're voting on, whether or not to consider the motion. A yes vote means you wish to consider the motion. A no vote means you do not wish to consider this motion. A two-thirds majority vote of no means that we will not consider this motion. Shall the question be considered? Need a roll call vote, please, Star?
So just for clarity on this, you can't have conversation on this.
No, I just want to know what.
So, a conversation on this, okay? It is, if you vote no, then it means that this question is not even considered. So a vote of no means it's not considered. A vote of yes means that you consider the question. All right? It needs to, in order for this to go down, it needs to have a two-thirds majority vote of no. And it is, there can be no debate on it. There can be no discussion on it.
And it doesn't need a second.
And it does not need a second.
Roll call vote, please, Star.
Mr. Conley?
If I vote yes, I want it to be considered.
Correct.
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
No.
Mr. Stahl?
No.
Mrs. Minor?
No.
Mr. Trombley?
Absolutely not.
Mr. Chesney?
No.
Mr. Birchfield?
No.
On to the next item on the agenda. Appointment of
It's recommended that we take Jen Samansky and Katie Boggs to be appointed to serve the district's representative to the PAC through June 30th of 2018.
So moved.
Support. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 6-0, one abstention.
On the donation of Spencer Elementary, we recommend that the donation of $3,000 be accepted from Lowe's Toolbox for Education Grant per Board Policy 7230. All gifts, grants, or bequests having a value of more than $1,000 shall be accepted by the board.
No, I had a comment. But this is-
So moved.
Support.
Okay, so we have a motion to support. Any discussion?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Still getting the hang of this.
You're doing great.
So I want to be clear before I even comment that I'm in full support, and this is great that we're able to procure these types of grants. The one thing I did want to point out, and I think this is not specific to, in this case, I guess it is specific to Spencer, but I'm looking at this broadly across the district as a whole. And when we go out to look for these types of grants, and I think that this one was really pursued by the PTO, which is great. And I read this application. I noted a couple things that do raise some concerns, and I think it's something that we as a district, and specifically our PTO, but also the administration in each building, need to be cognizant of, and that is that every so many years we go out and do this, and then we don't maintain. So I see in here, like, for instance, many years ago, an Eagle Scout built a butterfly garden, and now it's in disarray. So, again, I'm completely supportive of taking on these projects, but I don't want to do this and then in 3 years come back, and because the PTO's turned over, everybody's forgotten about it, and these composting piles are, you know, a big bin of junk. And I know we've experienced this. We're not the only district that has experienced this, but I think we've got to come up with a sustainable model as a district to make sure that when PTO moves on, the administration is still there, and we've got to maintain what we're asking and requesting in return.
we have asked our new grounds group to help us with these particular things, and I think last year they did a nice job of it. I think we have less today than we had a couple of years ago, because everything was wiped out primarily due to the bond. So I think you're right. I think we have to keep an eye on this as we move forward. And we've tried to really limit the construction projects. I'll give you a prime example. In not just this district, but lots of districts is there'll be a weekend warrior activity and we'll build dugouts. We don't know if the dugouts are built code, if they're built safely. So even though we love that help, we even listed on all our projects, like the one on the pole barn behind Mulpe, professionals in the area that will build these to code. And it's nothing against people that have helped on these projects in the past. It's fantastic. We've just tried to steer in other directions lately. So the maintenance is a big issue for us because we're limited on personnel. So I would agree.
I was just going to say, it's one of those things, I just don't want to see us get in over our head on projects where we're accepting money from an outside organization, and then 3 years, 4 years, all of a sudden it looks terrible, and we haven't done our due diligence in taking care of what we've asked for.
Makes sense.
I'm a former teacher in Brighton, taught at the kindergarten building, and we have a pond, we have raised bed gardens, Ford helped, also Home Depot helped with that, and I think it takes a diligent staff to take care of those areas, along with the help of the PTO and the parents. So I think this is always on the forefront in the minds of all the staff involved at the school, that these will continue to live on. I think at Miller, but the seniors and the preschools are also using some of that area that was developed.
That's accurate.
And then we also are liaisons to all these buildings, so we should probably be able to take the opportunity to see, from a leadership standpoint, what we can do to make sure things are happening at the building levels correctly, or make these things work through. Any more discussion?
That was it.
Okay, we got a motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 6-0. Next one up.
Per Board Policy 7310, disposition of school property, we ask that you approve the disposition of the equipment scheduled for sale or disposal that you find contained within this packet.
All right, do we have a motion to approve?
Support, or motion.
Moved and support from Mr. Birchfeld. We have more support. Any discussion?
Can people that would still like access to this stuff, are they still within the district, can they go over and get this stuff?
If they let me know, then I would take them over there, and if there's a value to it, charge them the value. But if they have an interest.
You mean to use in their classroom?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Sure. I thought you meant to buy.
No.
Oh,
They can
yeah.
get on Bidergy like everybody else. In
If
that.
they want to buy, but if they want it for their classroom, they just have to let me know.
Okay, so when would this go to Bidergy? I mean, what's the window of time they have there?
We could delay it as long as you like. How about 2 weeks?
Good.
Fine.
We'll send out an email.
We have a motion, we have support. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? None. That passes 6-0. Next one up is the amended budget. Dr. Gisling.
Yes, you have in your packet the amended budget for the 14-15 school year. You've had a couple weeks to look that over. I've received some questions via email from some board members. Hopefully, I've answered them all. If I haven't, I'm willing to entertain questions now.
I guess just for clarification.
Need a motion first.
I'm sorry.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Support.
Support.
We got motion and support. Discussion.
Discussion. Could you just, maybe cover a couple of the heavy hitters where there is, significant difference, say more than $500,000 between the original budget and the amended budget?
What page are you looking at in particular? Because I show you the budget in bunch of different ways.
Yeah, I'm looking at page 29.
Okay. Property taxes, a reduction of $535,000 just clears your threshold. We were a little aggressive in our budgeting as it rolled into the 14-15 school year, so that required an adjustment. Again, a conservative number, it will probably come in under $500,000. The next three line items under the state revenue, they are all part of the calculation for our per pupil foundation allowance, and they're all tied in together. We're guaranteed a minimum foundation. If we don't get it in one area, it kicks into the other.
Okay.
We were about, I think, 50 students over budget compared to our original budget, so that changed the calculation there a little bit. Foundation equity payment. We adopted the governor's budget. I know you weren't part of the board at the time. There was tremendous conversation about whose budget do we adopt. We're getting ready to roll into that planning for this year. The Senate, the House, or the governor. We stuck with the governor. He did not have this foundation equity payment in his budget. However, he had an additional per pupil foundation allowance. So that's where you see the change there. Okay, so then the big revenue piece, we never put the sale of Limbom in the budget, in the original budget. So that's where you see the increase of $1.1 million that hit the general fund. So those are the revenue.
Okay.
You want to look at the expenditures?
Sure.
I'm not sure what big increases. I mean, we were tracking pretty closely to our projected budget. One of the areas that we were really struggling to get a handle on, because it's never the same animal as our shared service program. We are going about budgeting for that differently to get our better arms around it better. So that's most of the change that we see on the expenditure side. And it turns up in the salary and benefit area as well as in the instruction area.
When we go after schools, we never know what they're paying or what they're offering in terms of insurance. So we usually pick a middle ground. Some come in higher, some come in lower. Next year will be the same thing. Today we put together our list of new schools that we're looking to go after. Our hope would be to acquire all of them. Some of them involve jumping counties like we did this year with Jackson Schools. We're going to be aggressive. I think we could get 350 more FTEs, but we're going to promise a lot less than the original budget cycle. And again, we really don't know until we actually sit down with their teachers what they generally make and what they generally have as benefits. And we try to mirror it as close to what they have. That's how we get them on board.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Then we have a motion and support. All in favor of passing the amended budget for 2014-15, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Passes 6-0. Nothing for future actions. Curriculum and instruction.
Thank you. Thank you. Tonight, I just want to bring to your attention, so you get on your calendars if you'd like to come, our kindergarten roundup is fast approaching at the end of this month on February 25th and 26th. It's a really exciting time of the year for our elementary buildings, and central office is doing their part with rolling out a centralized enrollment process that I think is going to make everything flow a lot more smoothly this year. But if you guys are available on either of those nights, at February 25th, we'll be at Hawkins and Hilton from 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and the next night at Horning and Spencer. And the kindergarten roundup, again, it's a time for parents to learn about our programs, to highlight our programs, show things off, and we get our first glimpse of what our new kindergarten enrollment might possibly be. So it's really, like I said, it's an exciting time that's coming up. And that just sort of dovetails this last week. I know we reported in the Friday letter about the kindergarten summit, which sounds really important, doesn't it? And it is. With all of our preschools in the county and our kindergarten teachers and programs and curriculum directors in the county, so that we can talk about transitions from preschool to kindergarten, such an important time, and that kindergarten readiness is always the biggest question. Of course, we all say if they're 5 at the right time, they're ready. We need to be ready for them. And but anyways, we met last week and we had representatives from all of our buildings, and our principals were there, and a great discussion. Hotspot directors and teachers were there as well, and they had a great conversation about having a transition night in May. I think they're scheduling it for with our kindergarten program, our kindergarten teachers and tot spot teachers. And so that's new this year. And like I said, I think that's a really, the health of a district really begins right there at the kindergarten. So put that on your calendars. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you, Dr. Suri. Finance.
You have in your packet the bills of January 26th through the 30th, and the big news is we got our bond rating, just came out. We have been upgraded from a triple B to a triple B plus. There's nowhere to go from where we're at but into the A range. And I have conversations with both Standard & Poor's and Moody's on a regular basis. They're in Chicago and New York. I don't know who these people are, but we've developed a relationship, and they laugh at us and they can't believe what a great job we're doing, because they look at our financial stats and they know that we're succeeding based on growth rather than reductions. And they wonder how we do it, and they keep looking for really positive things from our school district. And when we get into the A range, we are about 8 steps away from having the highest bond rating possible, and I do believe that that will be able to be achieved in the near future.
But isn't this based on last year?
It's based on the...
So this year...
Right, we'll get into the A range easy, yeah.
Into the A
Right.
range.
Mhm.
Right. Which, if you remember, not too long ago, we were at the lowest possible rating, which could have affected our bond rating when we sold them, when we passed that 3 years ago. So we were fortunate enough to not have that happen because we had kicked in the growth at that time. They held firm with us for a couple of years, and now we're...
And they were guaranteed.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Dr. Gistinger. Now we're going to talk financial strategy.
Yes.
Going forward, I know Mr. Chesney would like to talk about that.
Yeah, and I'm going to perhaps set up a PowerPoint. I just have one slide that I want to show in a second. But can I tell you a story? Okay. So one of my favorite classes as an undergraduate was a class called Personal Finance. It wasn't an engineering class at all. It was called Personal Finance. And in this class, they gave us like probably 5 to 10 significant financial strategies towards personal financial growth over life. And they were things like put 15% away of every check and have a 6 to 12 month emergency fund, and never spend more than a third of your net income on your mortgage, and just rules like that. And the reason that I bring that up is I was wondering if a school district could put together a similar set of policies to live by and to operate by as we project into the future. I mean, I think, there's been some tough times in Brighton area schools, and I think we are headed into some gentler times, and I think we will be judged by how we handle those gentler times, and that I think we should have some policy and some strategy in place for those gentler times. Frankly, I was a little bit scared at the last meeting in December last year when $300,000, $270,000 was spent in 15 or 20 minutes based upon essentially a pet project for a school board member. And it was a worthy project, but I think if we start spending money in chunks of $250,000 or $270,000, especially when we're spending money that we don't have yet, then I think we're going to be in a world of hurt before we've ever solved any of the problems. So essentially what I'd like to do is, over the period of the next perhaps 5 to 6 months, is try to roll out a set of fiscal strategies that we could potentially agree to follow as a board. And the first one that I'd like to talk about, I do have a slide on that, so if you talk amongst yourselves.
I hope so. Yeah. Do I get the timing? Absolutely. But while he's setting this up, I would like to just add a comment that when Mr. Chesney approached this to be added to the board packet, I started doing some research across the state on some policies regarding fund equity and what it means and why you should have a certain amount. It just appears that some of the major organizations lean towards a 20% fund equity. It used to be maybe 15, but they're leaning higher because of the funding issues, declining enrollment, and needing a bigger, nest of money.
You also have, if it has been passed out, as of June 30th of 14, which was 6 months ago, every school district in the state of Michigan's current fund balance as of that date, sorted by level of fund balance, and then also sorted by school district, the same data. So you can see where everybody else is.
These are 3 different files.
Okay. Thank you.
What's the recommended amount?
I was at Group Solutions with Michigan School Business officials last week, and there were about 50 people in the audience, and I asked them if they had a fund balance policy. Most of them did. About half of them had a percentage, and the range was between a minimum of 7 to 12.5% was the highest.
Are we governed by law for some type of?
No. From what I read today, I do not.
No.
And I think I looked at the Michigan School Business Officers Organization, and that's where I kind of read their article that says.
The benefits to fund equity would be the interest rates with your higher Standard & Poor's rating, as well as the fact that you don't have to borrow in the cash flow issue, which we have at the beginning of the school year. Those are the 2 biggest issues.
And you also have our current fund balance policy in the pile there.
So is that okay if I speak from up here?
Yes, it is.
So this is the, I'm used to speaking from standing up rather than sitting down. But, yeah,
It's in the back.
they might, but it's only this.
They did before we had to move the podium. We'll get them reconnected.
So, when we talk about the debt of the school district over the past, 10 or 15 years, this is the data that we're talking about. And Dr. Gissinger, please correct me when I go astray on any of this.
Sure.
And these are the bad times, right? This is 0, in the red, in the black. We go below this line, things are bad. We got down here to, I don't know, $7.5, $8.5 million in debt.
8.5.
Okay, so our trajectory, this is our current trajectory right here. That's a happy line. This right here, we'll call this the inflection point. And Dr. Gissinger, if you can tell us when we cross that line, I will buy Oreos for everybody in the room. And not just Brighton Road, I will buy double stuff. All right? So we're on this wonderful trajectory, okay? And we assume that this trajectory is a reasonable projection. And we're talking about what is the appropriate balance to have. And so the first financial strategy that I would ask that we as a board decide is, at what number is this bar graph high enough that we are happy and satisfied? I don't necessarily want to answer that today, but I think, for consideration, perhaps, I don't know if we put that on for future action, to have the discussion at the next meeting, and then vote it in as policy at the meeting after that. But I think those are the types of rules, and I think the first fiscal strategy we have is what fund balance do we want to have as a percentage of our operating expenses.
But again, I'd much rather hear that out of the professionals and the CPA that we have on staff.
Absolutely.
As to what their opinion would be and what they would recommend.
Absolutely.
So I would put it back to them to have them bring us those options, or to bring us that to the next meeting, or bring us that information, and let us look at it. With an explanation of why.
Make the recommendations, what that percentage should be, and then we can vote that as policy and practice for the school board. Absolutely. Okay, so that will be our rule number 1 for fiscal policy. And then the thing is too is I believe there's probably 5 to 10 of these things that are just good fiscal strategy for our school district, and getting those all out in the open. Perhaps something about the energy policy that we have, the energy bond, correct? And some of those issues to bring those up as well. But over time, because it's a little overwhelming thinking about it.
And one thing I'd like, I think, is as we do this, you're going to have this lump of money every year, hopefully, right, as we project out. We would also have talked about, performance bonuses and things like that based on those things. So we should probably have part of the policy say that, the first 90% goes to fund equity and the other 10% goes to
Well,
one thing. I mean, and that's just it's not a number to etch in stone, but it's a philosophy saying we need to earmark some of that money to do things with which the board
Yep.
agrees instead of.
Here's the only thing I would say to that is be careful with formulas. And the only reason I would say be careful with formulas is if you get into a situation where you base it on revenue brought in, okay, and then your revenue changes by some happenstance, you can get caught in a bind if it's in contractual language. And I'll give you an example. Back when we had a deficit, people might have thought, well, let's put a formula in place to where 90% of it goes into fund equity and 10% of it goes to the membership or goes to salary and benefits or bonuses or whatever. I think the thing that you have to protect against is you really don't know from year to year what's going to come in and out of the budget. And you can have a proration in March, which has happened a number, or even May, once your budget is 95% spent and you can't make adjustments anyways. So the other thing with that is, let's say all of a sudden a particular vote goes through, use the road tax for example. Let's say if that were to pass and you had already earmarked those dollars, but shared service went away. So you'd have to be real careful on what you word in terms of what's revenue and how it actually gets divvied out. We always feel more comfortable in zero-based budgeting to where we know the core services we're going to offer our community because they've told us that we have to do that. And then everything after that, we bring before you as we build the budget process and we say, here's where we think these dollars could go and we could still maintain our fiscal integrity.
One other thing to keep in mind too is that every year you get a chance to plan for what you want that year to be when we project the budget. So it
Flexibility.
Yeah.
Part of the budget.
Right.
Flexible.
So one year you might want to do this, the next year you might want to do that, depending on the direction
If you
of
don't
the
have a
board would
sinking
like to
fund
take.
and you earmarked a certain amount of the revenue to bonuses, but you have a boiler go down, now what do you do? And so I think that flexibility is important in terms of that. And, you know, trying to generate every bit of revenue that we can as a school district in terms of whether it's a sinking fund or a rec millage or who knows what. But there are opportunities out there that I think we need to talk about in this whole plan that Mr. Chesney's talking about, Dr. Chesney's talking about tonight.
So I would be very satisfied if simply at the next meeting, we could talk about, set up a for future action item of what is the appropriate recommendation on what's the appropriate fund equity balance to have as a starting point. And then perhaps start talking about what is the next item for discussion to come up with. What our list of 5 or 10 really good things that we want to do to have set up to understand our budget.
We can do that.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Superintendent.
Tonight we have Jeff Hamilton and Dennis Smith from AUK, TJ O'Connor from Stantec, formerly SHW, and Courtney Lauer from Barton Mallow, as well as Tracy Richards, who works with Courtney, who is an LESA employee but does a very similar thing to Courtney. So you had asked a couple of weeks, maybe a month ago, to come up with a presentation about where we're at in terms of the status of the bond. So they're here tonight to talk a little bit about that.
What's that?
He was going to bring the small.
Do you want to plug into this one? Maybe a little
little bit bigger.
Yeah, and that's a pretty deep powered projector. You're welcome to try that, or you can use this.
Yeah, we'll just do this, because we're being.
Okay.
Actually, I think we're good.
You get it going.
Are you comfortable? Wait, let me put my glasses.
It used to work when the podium was in the middle. But.
I've heard about that.
Okay. Shall we begin?
All right, just want to start with the design update. The next package that's coming out, back up one to the side.
Up arrow. Up arrow, right hand side. Right there.
This is the site reconfiguration. Involves creating a parent drop-off loop, separate from a bus loop, reconfiguring the student parking, which results in more parking, more consolidated. There's going to be a brand new entry canopy with a defined entry as to which door to come into. And then we've developed a number of alternates just to protect the budget that will allow you to pick and choose additional work so the budget will support it. The first one being repaving the entry drives. We're going to resurface the northeast lot, or northwest lot, excuse me, creating a southwest lot with a linking drive down, which would allow circulation to go all the way around the building. The only portion of the existing lot that we have not touched is the south lot. That's another alternate. And then lastly, a special education drop-off loop down at the far end of the building on the east.
If I may, did you say that would go around, is that basically by the pond? It would go around all the way around the school that
The
way?
pond is right down here, so this would allow you to go from this side of the site over to the east campus.
There's currently a gravel drive.
Leaf Lake would be off the corner there, Ken. At the bottom, that little corner. Leaf Lake would be probably 100 feet off that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
When's that package due out?
We're going to get into that. It's gonna be close to- We'll get that as part of this, but-
And then within the building, as I mentioned, there's a new entry defined with canopy at the parent drop-off loop. And then we're going to fill in the pool and create a fitness center with new finishes in there, renovating the locker rooms with new lockers, some new finishes in there, and leveling the bleachers to create another fitness mezzanine, an upper level in that space. And then up in the band and choral area, there's going to be some switching of program location, and then upgrades to some of the finishes in there, adding acoustical panels, adding storage for music, as well as for uniforms. And then lastly, the blue is mechanical renovations that will allow proper control of the systems and better comfort throughout, replacing some of the equipment, bringing others up to standard by refurbishing them, and basically adding controls throughout the entire building so that we'll have control of all the systems.
When you say fill the pool, how are you filling the pool to use?
So I've done this in 2 other districts. There's a number of different ways you can do it. So the two times I've done it, you bring in huge styrofoam blocks, and the blocks are set in the pool, and then there's a reciprocating saw with about a 10-foot blade on it. They scribe the contour of the pool, cut it, set it in place, sand over it, cement, rubberize the floor, and you're good to go. It takes about a week, or it did on those places. It was pretty quick. You can also use, if it's not a open pool underneath, you theoretically use the bleachers that you jackhammer out, so you don't have as much demo work. Put them in the bottom of the pool, fill the rest up. The only time you can't do that is if you have an open pool on the bottom, because it could blow with the pressure, the bottom out of that. But I don't think we've decided completely yet on the particular matter.
We're probably going in the direction of, because of the concerns of the water, flowing below that area, is to basically punch holes in the bottom to relieve that pressure so that it doesn't push up. And then you put a layer of concrete, and again, we're going to try and use the bleachers, break that up, put it in there, then you put a layer of filter fabric, and then you put the rest of compacted sand. You can build right on top of it.
was just curious, that was more of a
Yep.
curiosity. That's a big chunk of,
Yeah, it would be really difficult to transport the bleachers out, so it makes a lot of sense to put them in.
thanks.
Bidding schedule, the first project out for bids was Miller. We opened everything except the roofing bids last Wednesday. We're going to open roofing bids day after tomorrow, this Wednesday. We're going to be doing the post-bid interviews from the 9th until the 17th. Hope to bring the recommendations to the board on the 3rd. So cost-wise, everything is looking good on Miller. The parking lots, we're planning on going out for bids on the 12th, a pre-bid meeting on the 19th. Bids will be due March 4th. Conduct post-bid interviews from the 9th to the 17th, and hopefully bring the recommendations to the board on March 23rd. With the renovations on the inside of the building, we're going to go out for bids on March 16th, pre-bid meeting on March 24th. Bids due April 8th, post-bid interviews April 10th, 22nd, and then bring it to the recommendations to the board on the 27th. Update on the pool. We've doing the pool excavation. That's about 99% done. Starting to bring the aggregate base in. Once they do that, they'll do all the undergrade and plumbing, piping, drainage. We're starting to erect the steel on the south vestibule, and then we're working on the overhead and underground mechanical plumbing. Future activities will be pouring the concrete floors and the elevated slab pours, and then working on the inside, doing all the non-bearing interior masonry walls. And then the big thing is the forming up the tank itself, which the bottom will be in prior to March 10th. That's when we're scheduled to start the pool walls. And that's about a 3-month or 40-day process.
When do we anticipate this being done?
October.
October. Okay. We're on track, we got track.
And you said done, right, Jay?
I mean,
Yeah, done. Done.
Throw a sputo on, for
Yeah.
Not me. No, it's okay.
Right now, there are certain areas that we're behind. Some of the, weather's really kicked our butt.
It's a mission.
But the pool tank is the critical schedule. That's our baseline. And that is on target, on schedule for the pool itself. That drives the whole schedule. Everything else will catch up around.
Okay. Thank you.
Will construction or demolition of the old pool wait until the new pool is complete?
Yes, we won't take the old pool offline until the new one's up.
Okay.
If it survives. Been a bit of a challenge lately.
How far are you behind right now on the pool?
On the pool itself, we are not behind.
What trades are you behind on?
The interior slabs and the mezzanine slab.
All right.
That has
How
both
far
of
behind
those.
are you on those?
As I mentioned, we're about 3 weeks behind.
And how are you going to make that up?
That will be made up in the float in the schedule.
How much
That
float
is
do you
not
have in the
on the
schedule?
critical path.
How much float do you have in the schedule?
There's probably 4 weeks of float in there.
So you'll use 3 of those of the 4 weeks to catch up.
Yep.
What was the delay?
The weather has hurt us in the last few weeks.
Michigan, wintertime.
I know that.
Okay. And you'll be done, again, you'll be done on the 2nd, right?
We will be done in October.
It's on schedule, so that's.
That wasn't my question. I said, what trades were behind?
Just clarifying, that does not stop the progress of the pool.
I got
The
it.
pool itself, on schedule.
It'll be done on the 2nd, right?
We will be done in October.
2nd, according to your schedule. And don't forget, per your contract, if that date slips, you need to notify the board.
It hasn't slipped, though.
Be done then.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yes.
So the old pool will still be available for the girls' swim team?
Correct.
For the fall?
Yeah, we
We
will not
won't
take, we
touch
will
that.
not just take the old pool
If
down.
it survives.
That's because it's old and we keep putting more and more money into it, so.
Yeah, part of the plan when the bond was originally developed was that the pool we would never be without a pool.
Correct.
That's actually complicated some of the construction, but that was always part of the plan. So we knew that going in, and that's how.
And it complicates the construction because the hallway in between the exterior wall and the pool where you have the windows houses the large majority of our utilities. So they either run in the floor or they run through the ceiling there. So we've been working very hard lately to figure out a way to still be able to access the field house and the existing pool, but being able to to completely close off that particular hallway because that hallway needs to be gutted. So that's going to be the biggest challenge of the entire project, I think.
What'd you promise the girls?
Senior night.
That's right.
Senior night.
And when will the fitness center be complete?
We haven't worked out the schedule on that. I gotta see the details after the first of the year.
Yeah, in the other districts where I've done this, it's about a 4 or 5 month process.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'd like to go
Wrestling
back,
update or anything?
I'd like to go back to that site plan, the original site plan.
I think it was your very first slide. There you go.
What are you gonna do at the loading dock area? Do these drawings reflect those changes?
Yeah, well, actually not in the site package, but the details will be in the construction package. But we're going to rebuild the concrete retaining wall that holds up to the dock itself, and then walk to the north there that goes around the corner of the band area and replace all that along the rail.
So you're gonna demo all that and report, or you're gonna put something in front of it?
Demo it and report.
Okay. And those documents reflect those changes in it?
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody else? Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.
We also have Courtney and Tracy here to talk about technology.
Picture.
Oh, wrestling, yeah.
Just pull this out. I'll be careful.
Troublemaker.
So much easier if something was there to hold that computer.
As a technical, can that actually be projected out on those at some point?
Yes.
That's what he's trying to do.
Oh.
We couldn't find a remote earlier today, so Matt had one in his backpack, and
And I can't reach that.
we're hoping he can make it work. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, and hopefully we can get the TVs on in a little bit. My name is Courtney Lauer. I am from Barton Mallow.
And I'm Tracy Richards from LESA.
And we are the integration specialists for the district. So we get the pleasure of working. Why isn't this? Hold on. We get the pleasure of working with your staff. And I have to tell you, I've been in many, many districts across the state, and this is the best staff that you could have. They are hardworking. They are dedicated. They just are so excited about this technology. And which makes us, even more excited to be working with them. Just quickly, we're going to go through just what we do and how we provide services to the district. We go and we do professional development. This is on a weekly basis, so we get to see staff members every week doing, various things, whether it's, helping with their lesson planning and trying to incorporate that technology, or trying to help make their technology work if it's not working correctly. Also, we give technology support. So technology support meaning helping them out, figuring plugging things in, all that. We're supporting the media specialists and getting that technology up and running, as well as the tech department. So we've actually helped with
getting the Chromebooks and all those rollouts as well. In addition, we're doing curriculum development as well as curriculum integration. So we are taking some of the curriculum that is already in place and integrating it with the new technology that you have here in Brighton area schools. And then we're also developing new technology. So as things come on, Tracy and I, help add to that, or get together those resources, and add to the teachers' plan books and things. That's the first one. So the first, some of the other things that we do is we're just going to go through a couple of things that we've been supporting teachers on. Is the Promethean Active Inspire software. Just to show you a couple quick examples of, you may have never seen this before, and so these are just a couple quick examples of how teachers are using this in the classrooms. And these are actually been used in classrooms. Some of the teachers have created them. Some of them we've kind of created and done with them. So this one's just kind of called a magic revealer, and the students can come up and reveal some of the words that are part of the life cycle. So here, students and teachers can grab some of the little pull tabs. As we go through, they can come and talk about, the traits and things, and move certain pieces around. There's also video embedded into these, and sounds and all that fun stuff. This was created by one of the teachers, Ricky Held, and so he just created this kind of magic box. So students can, take the molecules and bring them over, and then as soon as they bring them over to the last box there, they reveal the answer. So going through some others, I'm just going to kind of skip over. These are, some of the things that teachers are doing where they're, putting in their agendas, or revealing different definitions, different ways to make it interesting and fun and interactive for the kids. So I won't go through any more of those.
The elementary teachers have been fabulous with this. They really embraced it. Whenever we walk into the buildings, we're not bored, I'll tell you that. So they're very good about, we have this great idea, help us figure out how to make it happen. So when your kids come home and say that they're playing on a huge iPad, that's what they're doing. It's instruction, it's curriculum, but to them, it's just like their iPads, because they're going up to the boards and they're touching them and they're moving it and things like that. So it's really helping the curriculum in the classroom and making it a lot more interactive, so the kids are more engaged with what's going on. The other thing that we support and helping out with is Safari Montage. So if you haven't heard of what Safari Montage is, it's a digital media management database. So it's really a great tool for the teachers to be able to use. They can upload their content into Safari Montage, or they can use the content that's already out there. What we've been doing in the district, Dr. Suri has helped us with this as well, and we've gotten together with the science department, with Wendy O'Keefe, and we've worked on Safari Montage playlists for K through 8 science. So for every unit, according to the Michigan standards. So we've created these nice little databases for the teachers to use and pull up, and again, make it more engaging in their classrooms. Also with the Safari Montage with the TVs in the buildings, we've been working with the elementary administrators as of late to get presentations up with the media specialists in the building and get their the content and the school announcements and things like that rolling, so that when the parents walk into the office, they've got something to watch while they're waiting, and whatever. So there's a lot of good information that's already out there, and a lot of things that we can create in a bunch of different atmospheres. So either an Active Inspire flip chart that we can pull into Safari Montage playlists for them, or it might be content video, Bill Nye's science videos and things like that to help with the instruction. So that's kind of the Safari Montage piece for you. And some other things we've been trying to do is really beef up teachers' websites to get information out there, as well as putting information on there for students. So as we start to roll out the Chromebooks and the iPads and other things, it's really nice to have a website so students can click on those links and it will take them to certain places for their assignments and other various things. So those are things that we're working on as well.
And then that leads me to our Chromebooks and our iPad rollouts. Tracy and I have offered to, we're both teachers, we love to be in the classroom. So we've been doing a lot of orientations, and the reason for these orientations is not just for the students, but for the teachers as well, to just kind of see in uniform across the district how things are being rolled out, what are the expectations. It's a huge thing for me as I go to different districts and I see, you know, what happens to the devices if they're not properly taken care of. And so what this allows us to do is we have, you know, a presentation that we give to every class so that it's uniform. So students know how to handle, how to carry their, you know, Chromebooks, iPads, other things, so that we have less broken, you know, devices and things. We've also offered for those teachers, because there's some tech-savvy teachers that are ready to fly with these things and they want it in their hands now. There's other teachers that are really scared and nervous, and we want to make sure, this is our whole goal, is to make sure that every teacher has the same opportunity, even though they may be scared or they may not be in that generation where, you know, technology has always been around them. So we have offered to go into those classes and work with those teachers and actually, you know, team teach those classes. And so that's been very beneficial. Teachers love it. They feel like they're supported. So it works out well. And the results are amazing.
And then with RTI, we've been working really closely with the RTI facilitators in the district. First Steps and the FAST board is a literacy intervention program that we're using. And so if you don't know what the FAST boards are, and you've seen their nice little magnetic board and they move the words around and things like that, we worked on creating those on the actual Promethean board so that the kids can be more interactive with it. We were able to download all of the concepts onto the Promethean board for them. And then with First Steps for kindergarten, that was something new that they were using this year, and we were able to make that interactive for them as well. So these are just a few of the things that we've been doing. We've been very busy. We still have a nice list of to-do things. We're going to be working on some health curriculum with Dr. Suri, and that's going to happen towards the end of the month. And so there's continuous things that get added to our to-do list. So it's been fabulous. We've really enjoyed what we've been doing so far.
And this is just kind of a brief outline. We don't need to go through all of these, but these are the things that we've been doing. So we're, you know, in the schools every week. We're hitting, you know, every school, all the elementaries every Tuesday. And then it alternates between the high school and Mulpey and Scranton the other weeks. So we do get to them, and, you know, they had an extra year under their belt. So we're really trying to get to all of those schools and supporting them in all areas. We do have monthly tech goals that we put out, and these are just put on by us. They're not mandated by the district, but just to give teachers an idea of what's the next step. Without those, they don't know what questions to ask and where to go. So Tracy and I kind of, you know, made up a list that we feel is, you know, kind of a guide for those teachers. And we try to offer trainings and things that go with those goals each month or week.
We have a lot of teachers that will say, I don't know what I need help with. So this helps them, give them some things that if you haven't hit these objectives yet or haven't hit these goals yet, it's not for us to micromanage them. It's to give them things, you know what, I don't know how to do that yet, so during my prep time, can you come in and help me with that? So we have a calendar that we send out to them at the beginning of every month. They can go in and sign up for whatever time works for them. And then I also have a float date when we're in the district that if it didn't work the day that we were in their building, they have another opportunity every week to get with us. So they've been really good at taking advantage of all that training.
Absolutely. And then this leads us to just, we offer after-school training. So, you know, some of the schools like after-school things. So there may be a grade level of first grade teachers, and they say, you know, we're going to meet after school on such and such a day. Could you come for an hour or two? And Tracy and I have done that as well in those buildings. We also offered PD in the summer, and then we've been doing the PD days, you know, throughout the school year. One thing I have to say is I was absolutely amazed by how many teachers attended the summer trainings this summer.
We put it out there, Dr. Suri and I were kind of, dreaming up things, and I had a couple sessions, and some people were like, oh, people aren't going to attend. I had full capacity every single time that I had to keep opening sessions. And I say we got about 80 teachers that came in during that time. And some were repeats, and some were, some, even though I taught the session 3 times, they still came because they just learned new stuff every time. But that is absolutely incredible for them to take time out of their summer to do that, to prep and plan for this technology. So kudos to all of you in the district that have supported them and given them those opportunities, because they don't even probably realize how amazing that is. Because I know other districts around the state don't provide that extra support for their teachers. So that's a last little quote there. But just thank you for the opportunity. We absolutely love what we do, and that's kind of the update on the integration. Any questions?
Courtney, I know you're under I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I know you're under
I was coming from
contract.
Henry.
How long is your contract for?
Right now, through next year.
So she's on contract through Barton Mallow. Okay. As a technology, and then Tracy works for LESA. Assigned to us. So, but what we need to look forward to is once our contract is up with Barton Mallow, which is next year.
Correct.
Right?
Well, it will actually extend some because as we sell the next $4 million in bonds, that's all technology, so it
That's
could be
right.
extended.
So we could extend her contract.
Either that or we're going to steal her from Barton Mallow, one of the two. So I've already tried a couple
My
of
point
times.
to it is that.
And I've told them I might not object. I do love it here. I really
We'll make you an offer you can't refuse.
do. As long as Tracy comes.
Yeah.
We're a package deal.
We know.
We work really well together.
Yeah. No, you guys have done a great job, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Student representative.
Thank you, Mr. Kraus. So I just wanted to comment on a couple school-wide things that have been going on recently, but first I just wanted to make a quick comment about the technology presentation. I just wanted to say that I think at VHS currently, a lot of the technology that's been implemented because of the bond has been really beneficial to a lot of the students. For example, when they're talking about the Promethean boards, I can say that I use that probably daily in my calculus class. And my teacher, Mr. Tumser, does a great job of incorporating that into his lessons. And I just wanted to say that I think that's a big plus and a bonus for the kids at VHS. As far as athletics go, recently the Brighton varsity wrestling team, they won the KLAA West title, the Lakes Conference, and the KLAA Championship. And this Wednesday they're wrestling for a district title against Howell and Pinckney. So I just wanted to give them a round of applause too.
And specifically, sitting next to Mrs. Park is Bo Maurer, who is the champion at 160. So congratulations.
And then also, as many of you may know, starting now with the new semester comes the school-wide policy of exam exemption for seniors. As long as seniors keep their absences low and maintain all A's and B's, we do not have to take exams at the end of the year. Many of the teachers find that this is a good way to keep seniors motivated throughout the school year, and this starts now, so I just want to bring that up. Next, this past Friday, VHS, we had our annual Winterfest assembly. This included a school-wide whiteout with an enormous amount of school spirit. The leadership class organizes this. The same Friday, the Brighton varsity girls basketball team won their game against Howell. And then Saturday was the Winterfest dance. It was themed Emerald City, and the sophomore class council organized that.
Is that it?
Yep.
Thank you very much for that update. Now it's time for our second call to the public. If you'd like to address the board, please approach the podium. You've got 3 minutes. Same rules apply as the first time around.
Go ahead if I want it.
My name is Margaret Adams. I'm a Brighton resident, but also a Brighton teacher. I am one of the media specialists that Courtney and Tracy have been working with. And I just wanted to say, to follow up on what they were talking about, that it's just been a pleasure having them as part of our team, because our media specialists are stretched very thin, being 0.5 in the buildings. To have Tracy and Courtney there for our support has been awesome. And they have been instrumental at having those teachers using that technology so that when they come into their classes, the students actually know, which is kind of sad to say, but sometimes the students know more than we do when they go to the board and they can work their way around things. But then you also have those kids that say, oh, but I know how to fix that. And it's like, no, you're second grade, please sit down. I really do know what I'm doing. But I just want to say thank you for having Courtney and Tracy both here for our support, because they have been a huge addition to our department, and we love having them. Thanks.
Jerry Osterman, 3119 School Lake. I'm a parent. I have two children that attend school here, a 7th grader and a 2nd grader. And I want to say there are so many amazing people in this room that are doing a wonderful job. And I love Brighton area schools, and I can't imagine sending my children anywhere else. My son's in 2nd grade right now. He's an amazing teacher. When he was in 1st grade, he had an amazing teacher, Miss Aubert, and every day she sees him, he hugs her. He can't talk about her enough, and all the things that he learned from her, and how 2nd grade is going so well. I mean, he just loves school so much. And my 7th grader, she loves Scranton. She thinks that Scranton is the best thing ever. She has great teachers there. She loves her French, Mrs. Armstrong. Really, the teachers in this room, Mrs. Adams, amazing media specialist. My kids love you. And Mrs. Moyer, Hilton's principal, has always been so personable with me. And she makes being on the PTO the best experience ever. I can't imagine doing it without her.
Jonathan Weinrob. Didn't plan on speaking tonight, and so I didn't really write anything down. But I wanted to say I went to the Hilton family tonight. I really like this school district. We're new to the area. Glad that we moved here. It's a lot of really wonderful things: the technology, the teachers, the bond passing, things that I mentioned last time I spoke at the last meeting. Mr. Conley, I'm glad that you've returned. I was going to address you regardless whether you were here or not. I felt that you were insulted. It's implied.
Sir, we try not to address specific.
I apologize. I felt as though it was implied that the Brighton area schools were somehow less patriotic than the ACA would be by a member of the board. I felt as though that it was implied that Brighton area schools are not already the best. I felt as though it was implied that you all are not serving what it is that the community wants. And I don't believe that to be true. I listened to a wonderful presentation tonight from many of you. Mr. Stahl, I enjoyed hearing what you said about finances. It's important to me. Yeah, that's what I was pointing to. We share some finances. Sure. But I felt that it was wrong to make the implication, and if you look at the tape, you'll see that that's what was stated, that somehow Brighton schools are less patriotic, you know? And I agree that if the law and what was stated by Mr. Conley, is the law does state very clearly that an opportunity, it does need to be presented to each student, and how you guys decide to do that, decide. But the law should be upheld. It is the law. But to sit there and create that kind of implication, and almost to say as if I say the pledge more often and louder, I'm somehow more patriotic, I find that to be very, very wrong. And I was insulted by it. Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the board this evening? All right, that closes call to the public.
Motion go.
I'd like to make a motion to enter closed session for approval of the January 26, 2015 closed minutes.
Move. We have support and move. Roll call vote, please, start.
Mr. Chesney?
Support.
Mr. Stahl? Support. Mr. Trombley?
Yes.
Minor? Yes. Mr. Birchfield?
Yes.
Mr. Kraus?
We'll take 5 minutes to let the room.